Everyone knows the superhero Nightwing, but where did that start? Where did he get the idea to become Nightwing instead of just being another Robin? Well, today we're going to tell you the story of Nightwing Year 1, which involves his origin and his confrontation with Jason when he took over. This is the Comicstorian channel. I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites. This allows you to understand what's going on in the world of comics, and you can pick the ones that you want to add to your collection. Today is just the full story of Nightwing Year 1. It's a full graphic novel, so it's easy to follow along with. He starts off as Robin, and he'll end as Nightwing. And this video is brought to you by us, over at the Ben and Friends channel, where we're playing games such as Gotham Knights, where you can see me being Nightwing. We stream every weekend, and we're bringing you videos over there for all kinds of narrated video game adventures. So if you want to check that out and you want to help us, click the link down below and please consider it. All right, let's get into Nightwing Year 1. The snowmobile crashed through the city. Robin was late. He aimed for the building in the park. Crashing through the window, he slams the vehicle into Clayface, leaping down to the ground, standing next to Batman. "Can you stand?" he asks, and Batman nods as he struggles to his feet. "Yes, but Clayface isn't finished," he growls. Robin leaps down, remaining silent as Clayface makes several bad puns. The monster continues to chase him as Robin leaps around the room, finally leading him outside. The cold wind and snow bite into them, but it doesn't take Clayface long to figure out that he is slowing down. His body is hardening from the cold until he is stuck tight. Robin smiles as he turns back, tapping Clayface with his finger. "Ha! Claysicle!" he jokes quietly, before turning as Batman approaches, a baby wrapped tightly in his cape. I know I'm late. Titan's business," Robin tries to explain, but Batman shakes his head, not interested in the boy's reasoning. "You should have been beside me," he growls. The two begin to argue, getting close, anger in their eyes. Both are unaware that Clayface's exterior is beginning to crack. Hagen's human form breaking free. The criminal aiming a gun at the dynamic duo. Robin reaches for a batarang as Hagen orders them to give back his child. He squeezes the trigger, but the revolver is gummed up with mud, exploding in his hands as Batman turns and covers the child. But when the heroes look back, the villain is gone. "Take him," Batman growls, offering Robin the baby. But Robin shakes his head, turning to go after Clayface, running through the cold. "Robin!" Batman yells out, but the boy wonder is already gone. He follows closely behind Clayface, dismayed to discover that the criminal has escaped into the sewers. "Ah, crud," he whispers as he follows him down into the muck, sneaking up behind him. He sees that he's gathered enough materials to form his outer shell again, so he throws a batarang, electrocuting the monster before leaping down and kicking him. But Clayface's head flies off and Robin realizes it was a decoy. The real Clayface rises up behind him, choking Robin with his muck. "You stepped into it this time, bird brain. Up to your neck!" He chuckles, grabbing a hold of Robin, throwing him across the sewer into the wall, telling him that he's planning on ransoming him to Batman for his child. "Oh, and I'll tell him that you're still alive. He'll believe me, because he has to." Robin struggles, throwing his bat line over the pipe, looping it around Clayface's head. The monster laughs as Robin attempts to choke him, grabbing the line and yanking, ripping the overhead pipe apart, dousing him with water. Water rushes through the sewer, washing the muck off of Hagen's body, slamming him into a wall. Robin pulls himself up, able to breathe once again, and he looks up at Batman. "You shouldn't have gone after him alone." Robin glares at him. "No need to thank me," he mumbles, and the two return to the car, returning the baby and Hagen to the police. They then return to the Batcave, discovering Alfred cleaning out the mouth of the T-Rex. The faithful servant greets them as he climbs down, hugging Dick and informing him that he needs a shower. "Alfred, we could both use something hot to take the chill off," Bruce tells him quickly, and Alfred nods, heading to the stairs. By the way, I left you a bit of a surprise in the changing room. Robins molt their feathers before becoming fully fledged adults, do they not? Alfred says with a smile to Dick before disappearing. As he heads out of the cave, Bruce reaches down, tapping a button on the computer, locking the cave down. Dick heads over to the armory, discovering the new suit that Alfred made. But Bruce is behind him. "We need to talk," he says, but it's not a talk. The two argue once again, with Bruce snapping that Dick hasn't lived up to the high standards that were set for him. Alfred is shocked when he can't return to the cave, but Bruce hasn't lifted the lockdown. "You're fired, Dick. Get out of my cave." Bruce snarls and Dick turns to leave, but Bruce stops him. "Leave the new uniform," he says sharply. Dick nods, dropping the costume to the floor. When Alfred finally cuts his way into the cave, Bruce tells him what happened, and Alfred looks in sadness at the new Robin uniform. "Surely you don't expect me to wear it," he says softly. Now we cut to Metropolis, the Daily Planet. Dick Grayson has searched out Clark Kent. "How can he fire you? It's not a job," Clark asks as he leans against his desk, and Dick shrugs. "It is to Bruce," he explains, and he tells Clark that it is Bruce's city and that he makes the rules. But that's when the two are interrupted by Lois Lane, who immediately begins to grill Dick on how he knows Clark. Clark turns his head, aware of a bomb threat in the city, focusing in on the president's motorcade. When Lois turns back, he's gone. "That's just like him," she says with a smile. And when she turns back, Dick has also disappeared. He's leaping across the rooftops, wearing a hoodie and using his last remaining batarang and lime. One of the bombers is looking down at the motorcade, preparing to leap and blow up. But there's a whoosh of air and his bomb is suddenly gone, exploding high above the city. When the bomber looks up, Superman is standing next to him. "Couldn't wait for election day to cast your vote." But there's a second bomber down on the street. Dick Grayson lands on the rooftop next to him, startling the man and causing him to fall. Dick moves fast, grabbing a hold of him, but the bomb comes off in his hands. The man keeps falling, but Dick is staring at the bomb, which has already started to count down. He has no choice. He can't throw it. He can't drop it. He leaps into the air, knowing that he needs to try and limit the casualties to 1. But he's snagged out of the air and looks up in surprise at Superman. "Lighten up. The timer's a failsafe in case the altitude detonator didn't ignite," Superman says with a smile. So later, the two of them are standing on a rooftop with Dick explaining that he doesn't know what he should do now. "Well, you're too young to retire," Superman jokes, and Dick nods, asking Clark what made him choose the life of a superhero. "Why don't I show you?" Clark says. And within a short amount of time, the two are within the Fortress of Solitude, with Clark showing him a recording from Krypton of a man that was exiled from his family for his beliefs, deciding to do good. He took up a persona and fought against injustice. He became a legend, Clark explains. "What's his name?" Dick asks, staring at the images. No one knew his real name. He was only called Nightwing, Superman tells him, and the two continue their talk, with Clark suggesting that Dick needs to find some place that he can call home, somewhere that he can go when the fighting is done to think. "Do you have a place like that?" Superman asks. So time passes, and Dick is staring down at Haley's Circus, the place that he grew up before his parents were killed. He walks down, moving through the crowds, the sounds and smells bringing back the memories of his childhood. But someone is rushing through the crowds. Someone is shouting that they are thieves. Dick moves quickly, leaping over the stalls and over people's heads. He lands in front of these thieves, one pulling a knife trying to stab him, but Dick ducks easily under the attack, twirling through the air before turning to a fire spitter. "Hey Pablo, borrow your sticks?" he shouts, and the man nods as he recognizes Dick, tossing the makeshift weapons. Dick catches them, smiling, whirling around on the thieves, bashing and knocking them to the ground quickly. All of the enemies are down within seconds. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Cloud Barker begins to shout, "I present to you little Dickie Grayson. Haley's Circus' own favorite son is all grown up and still making us proud," he says to those that have gathered. The circus quickly goes back to normal, and Dick is ushered into the owner's office, where he greets Lorna, the new head of the circus, and explains that he is asking to come with them for a short amount of time. "And you're okay sharing the trapeze? Working without a net?" she asks him. "We promise thrills, chills, and we deliver," a voice says as the door kicks open. Dick looks in surprise as the dead man walks through the door. "What's the matter, kid? You look like you just saw a ghost." More time passes, and Dick begins his life at the circus, trying to get away from everyone that he knows, trying to find some time alone, to think and figure everything out. But he just ends up being lonely. He walks through the circus one day when a strange voice stops him. "Tough being on your own," the little person says. "Away from the people you know has to be hard." His eyes seemingly far away. "What would you know?" Dick asks, and the little person nods sagely. "You'd be surprised, boy wonder." He finally tips his top hat and walks away, with Dick shocked that he called him the boy wonder. He heads over to the trapeze where he finds the Cleveland band practicing. A dead man asks him how his act is coming along. "I'm still working on some ideas." "You took over your brother's routine, right?" Dick asks, remembering the name Boston Brand. And Cleveland Brand nods. It was a moneymaker until he became the real dead man. Cleveland waves and heads off, leaving Dick alone. It was Lorna and her father who finally joined him, showing him an old poster of his father's early days. The images giving Dick some ideas about his costume, and Lorna tells him to head to wardrobe to work it all out. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Alfred is heading down into the cave where he discovers a young boy tied to a chair. He's shocked, rushing forward, untying him. "Who are you?" Batman appears in the shadows behind him. "His name is Jason Todd. I caught him trying to steal the tires off the Batmobile last night." "And do you intend to keep him?" Alfred says as he finishes untying Jason. Batman steps forward, putting his hand on the boy's shoulder, leading him away. "I'll let you know. In the meantime, can you make us some sandwiches? Jason and I are going to have a long talk." Meanwhile, Dick is soaring through the air on the trapeze, dressed in his new costume. He lands next to Cleveland Brand and he smiles at him. "You got chops, sport, in the jeans, huh?" he says, and Cleveland leaps through the air next, with Dick looking down at those gathered below, but some of the kids run in front of a truck carrying the lion, forcing it to swerve, knocking the cave loose. The lion steps out, growling at those that have gathered around, but Dick doesn't hesitate, leaping down in front of the lion, giving the kids and the workers a chance to get away. The lion swipes at him, but he flips away, grabbing a few sticks to use as weapons. "Easy, fella, I don't want to hurt you," Dick says as the kids manage to escape. The lion leaps at him, but Dick manages to get a weapon and jam it into his mouth, stopping it from taking a bite out of him. The weight of the lion slams him into the ground as it bites at him again, but the creature roars as a tranq dart is shot into its side. "Hey kid, just give the dart a chance to kick in," Cleveland shouts, and in seconds the creature begins to sway, dropping unconscious on his body. Lorna and her crew come rushing over. "Double your wages if you can manage that twice nightly and make it just as dramatic for paying customers, Dick," she jokes. Dick shifts, trying to push the lion's massive weight off of himself. "I don't think I need the money that bad, Lorna," he groans. But it's later that Dick is holding up his prize from the circus's blacksmith. A new style of batarang, one that is very sharp. He walks away with Cleveland catching up to him, asking what he's working on with the new tools. "I've decided to go back to my former line of work," Dick explains, but Cleveland suddenly stops. "Boy wonder," his voice coming across far different than before, and Dick stops short. He turns back around, looking at what is supposed to be Boston Brand's brother. "You're Boston Brand, aren't you? I read my mentor's files on you." Boston nods, explaining that he watches over his brother and Lorna when he can, but recognized Dick when he arrived. He can't be here physically, but spiritually, he can still be a part of his brother's life. "You knew my father. Do you think he'd be proud of me?" Dick finally asks, and Boston looks at him for a moment. "How could he not, boy wonder? You're better than him and me put together. If I ever get to earn an admission to the pearly gates, I'll tell him you said so," Boston says, putting a hand on Dick's shoulder before leaving his brother's body. Later at the Batcave, Bruce is leaning over a piece of tech. "Boston," he suddenly says, and it's Alfred who appears behind him, his face slack from the possession of the spirit superhero Boston Brand. "There's something wrong when a ghost can't even sneak up on you, Bats," Boston jokes, quickly filling Bruce in on what is happening with Dick. "Is he coming back?" Bruce asks, but Boston shakes his head. "Apparently not. He doesn't need your safety net anymore." With that, Boston Brand leaves, returning a very confused Alfred to his body. Alfred is even more confused when he looks up to see Jason Todd standing there, dressed in the new Robin costume. "What do you think?" the young man asks with a smile. Time passes with night coming over Gotham City, and someone is leaping out of the shadows, with James Gordon going for his gun. "That's enough, punk! Hands where I could see them!" he shouts, and Nightwing nods, putting up his hands. "It's okay, Commissioner. You know me," he says, but Gordon doesn't lower his weapon. To prove himself, Nightwing reaches into his belt, pulling out a toy badge that Gordon gave him a long time ago. "You gave me this. You told me that if I ever needed you, that if I ever needed a friend, that a sheriff always recognized his deputies." Gordon stares at him for a moment. "Say something only the kid would know." Nightwing thinks for a moment. "My former associate has a thing for bats? You took up a pipe to quit smoking cigarettes? Wait, hold mistaken identity," he says, and Gordon finally nods, lowering his weapon, asking why Robin changed his costume. Nightwing quickly explains that he's no longer Batman's partner. "Well, you always did seem like the sensible one of the team. I sort of hoped you'd meet a nice girl someday and settle down," he says, reaching for his pipe. And Nightwing explains that Batman will be working alone now, but he wanted to fill Gordon in. Thanks for filling me in on staff changes, Nightwing. But you'll have to excuse me. I have a super late supper with my daughter, Gordon says as he heads towards the door, with Nightwing waving to him as he steps off the edge of the building. Maybe he'll introduce us someday. She sounds like a nice girl, he says with a smile as he leaps into the night. Back over at the Batcave, Bruce is watching as Jason finishes his round of training. The kid is good, but not good enough. They're then interrupted when Alfred appears, informing Bruce that he has a call from the commissioner on the special line. Nightwing leaps through the night of the city, seeing a man getting robbed in his car, and he leaps down, landing on the roof of that car. Miss the bus, guys? He asks the hijackers, and he kicks one away while the other one pumps his shotgun, meaning to intimidate Nightwing. Dick smiles, moving forward, grabbing a hold of the weapon. Saw that in a movie, huh? Chambering around on that stubby really puts an exclamation point in the moment. Of course, you just ejected a perfectly good slug, he says as he moves his hand, pumping the weapon 3 more times until it's empty. What do you know? Out of bullets, he says with a smile before kicking the thug and then turning back to the driver. You got a cell phone? I'll wait with you until Gotham's finest show up, he tells him, but the man doesn't seem interested in waiting for the police. Nightwing walks to the car thinking the man is still nervous, but that's when he looks in the back seat and he's shocked to find a woman tied up back there. The man slams on the gas, causing the car to lurch forward, but Nightwing tries to hold on for dear life as they swerve down the street. I know what you're thinking! I do! The man shouts. Why'd he put Lola in the back seat? Why not the trunk? He says as he swerves again. 'Cause her mother's in the trunk! The man is laughing maniacally. Batarangs fly into the night, slashing the car's tires, sending it up onto the curb. An engine roars, and Batgirl appears on her motorcycle as the car slams into a small wall. Lose something, man wonder? She asks as she gets off the bike. Your edge? Your street sense? She asks as she walks forward, but Dick smiles as he rubs his sore body. Guess so. It's not like riding a bike, she says as Batgirl heads back to her motorcycle. Speaking of, do you need a ride? She asks and he nods, climbing aboard as the two roar off into the evening. Later, they find themselves at a park, with Dick filling her in on everything that has happened. So where does that leave me? She asks, and Dick shakes his head. You'd have to ask him. With that, they finish their dinner, with Dick asking her what she thinks that he should do first now that he's flying solo. I think some public relations to promote the new you. Establish some of that striking fear into the criminal element by introducing your bad self, she tells Nightwing. So later that night, the Joker is looking up from his cell in Arkham as a knock sounds at the door. Who's there? He says with a grin as he stands up. I see, a voice calls out. Joker puts his eyes to the window of the door. I see who? 2 fingers come through, poking him in the eye, sending him to the ground. You don't see nothing. Nightwing snaps, and the Joker falls back as the door opens. I can't believe that I fell for that! Nightwing steps through the door, grabbing the Joker and slamming him into the wall. But the Joker recognizes his voice. What's with the new duds? Daddy Warbats neglected to do the wash, playing dress up for that pretty little Batgirl. Nightwing gets close, hissing in the Joker's ear that he won't be seeing Robin anymore. But that doesn't mean the balance of power has shifted in your favor. He snaps and slams Joker into the ground. I'm Nightwing. Remember that, he says before turning to walk out of the room. What the hell kind of name is Nightwing? This is a joke, right? Joker screams from his cell. And the night passes as Nightwing and Batgirl move throughout the city, hitting several criminal stops to declare Nightwing's arrival in the city. Quiltman falls to their duo, and Cobblepot is brought in on his illegal gambling at the Iceberg Lounge. And from the Batcave, Bruce is watching everything, his new Robin at his side. I want you to study all the footage here. And then what? Jason asks him. And then you face the gauntlet, your final test. Nothing fancy, just a simple game of tag. Two-Face turns around, flipping his coin. I'm not gonna tell you twice. 2-time me and you're dead. He growls, and Batman stares at him for a moment. How was it, sir? Did I strike the proper chord? Alfred asks from behind the Two-Face mask, with Batman nodding, giving him the barest hint of a smile. Masterful performance. Close enough to fool even me. He then tells Alfred to prepare for the night. And the subject of this exercise is on his mark? Alfred asks. And Batman nods. He will be. And in keeping with our theme, you'll have an audience of 2. Batman tells him. Meanwhile, over in a hotel, Dick springs to wake as the curtains are pulled back, scaring the maid who came in thinking that it was an empty room. She quickly leaves, promising to bring him more towels, so Dick reaches for the phone. Tired of room service and the Weather Channel man wonder? Barbara asks when he calls her, so they talk for a moment before she asks him to meet her at a stakeout tonight. Later, Nightwing lands on the agreed rooftop, but he finds no Batgirl. He waits for a few hours, steadily growing more worried that she hasn't shown. And then he turns, his eyes widening as he sees a familiar costume prowling around on the rooftops. Okay, what's the joke? He says as he lands next to our costumed hero, who turns out to be Robin. Who put you up to this? Robin turns to him. Are you part of it? The test? He demands, and Nightwing isn't amused, demanding to know why Jason is in his old costume. Oh, you're him! The guy that I replaced! Jason says with a smile as he realizes who he's talking to. Look, you're over, okay? I don't need your help with the gauntlet. He says to him, turning away and leaping off into the night, leaving a stunned Nightwing behind. He quickly tries to follow, demanding answers out of Jason, but as he's trying to get them, Jason headbutts him instead. Stop stepping on my cape! Jason snaps after he explains that he's trying to run the gauntlet. Then he leaps off again, swinging through the air, with Nightwing quickly following behind him, growing more and more agitated at this. Meanwhile, across town, Alfred and Bruce are headed out in their car, dressed as Two-Face and a nameless goon. They're prepared to begin Jason's final test as Robin. But Jason isn't having the best time, because now he's tied up on the floor as Nightwing struggles to reach out to Barbara on a payphone, ordering Jason to shut up as the kid is struggling. Hey, come on, pick up, Babs. I'm not mad. I know your loyalty's to him first, and Nightwing begins as he gets her machine. But Jason's legs are now free as he sweeps out, knocking Nightwing off of his feet. All right, that's 2! Nightwing snaps as he rolls over, but Jason has freed his hands and throws a punch, hitting Nightwing in the back of the head. You mean 3? He snaps, squaring off, prepared to fight. I get it now. This is the test, isn't it? Of course you'd be stuck fighting the new and improved model. I take down the original, I get my wings. Meanwhile, Bruce and Alfred in their disguises are driving, but somebody recognizes Two-Face in the car and quickly puts in a call to their new boss. Over at the docks, the accountant gets the call looking at his employer, a large man in an overcoat. He explains that they saw Harvey Dent. The man in the overcoat tells him that they're going to take out Two-Face and send a clear message to all of the major underworld figures. So they send the message to do it. Within a short amount of time, Bruce looks in the rearview mirror at the last second, and a car of goons slams into them from behind. It causes their car to spin and get trapped next to another. The goons jump free, pulling the dazed Two-Face, aka Alfred, out of the back. Bruce gets up, trying to get to Alfred, but the goons blast him with their weapons, pushing him to the ground. He staggers up, dazed, so the driver slams on the gas, sending the car towards Bruce, making him bounce off of the hood. They then peel away into the night, leaving the Dark Knight on the ground and Alfred kidnapped in his disguise. Meanwhile, over in the alleyway, Jason throws a punch that Nightwing easily blocks. He lashes out gently, a blow sending Robin into the wall. But Robin reaches for a brick, reminding Nightwing that Batman found him on the streets, and he slams Nightwing upside the head. Another kick sends Nightwing into the wall, and Jason leaps free, quickly scaling a fire escape and swinging back down into the fight. Back over at her apartment, Barbara is listening to the message that Dick left. She knows that he's mad that she lied, but she can't do anything about it. Till finally she growls in anger, rushing to change. Stupid, stupid boys, they need me to tell them what to do! She snaps, quickly leaping into the night as Batgirl. Meanwhile, Bruce is staggering down an alleyway, trying to reach Dr. Tompkins' clinic. He reaches for his comm device. Robin, answer! Damn it! Struggling to fight death. Until Jason finally picks up. Yo, he's following, but I think I'm a little lost, the kid admits. Abort the exercise! Bruce gasps. Jason tries to argue, telling him that he can take down Nightwing. But at that moment, Nightwing is suddenly behind him, knocking Jason down, taking his comms. What was the point of all of this? To rub my nose in your new brat wonder? Dick asks angrily. But Bruce has now reached Leslie Tompkins' clinic. Still struggling, he explains that everything that is happening is not the gauntlet. Alfred has been kidnapped, and they need to save him. Dick doesn't hesitate. He immediately leaps into the night, with Jason quickly following. Wait up! He said we gotta do this together! Meanwhile, Alfred has been brought to the docks. The goons drag this Two-Face into the boss's office, and as the big man turns around, he removes his overcoat, revealing himself. Alfred's eyes widen in shock at the monstrous figure. Name's Waylon Jones, but my professional name is Killer Croc. Meanwhile, over at her clinic, Leslie is desperately trying to save Bruce's life. As he continues to struggle to stand, he hopes that he can help Dick and Jason, but he finally falls unconscious as all of the drugs that she gave him take effect. But it's Nightwing and Robin that have caught a train to the docks. Nightwing smiles as the wind whips by them, but Robin isn't having any of it. "You have a motorcycle, right?" Jason asks with Nightwing grinning at him. "Yeah, but this is more fun." Jason struggles to keep hold as the train is lurching. "So this is just a big old good time for you, isn't it? We're gonna save Alfred's life and you're riding the L train for free." Nightwing nods. "I try to be happy at my work, Brat Wonder. Besides, Alfred can take care of himself." The train then hits a sharp turn and Jason almost falls off the side, but Nightwing manages to catch his cape. "So how'd he pick you anyway?" he asks, and Robin holds back. He caught me trying to steal tires off his car." Nightwing roars with laughter. "That's good!" He turns, leaping off the train as they reach their stop. The two then begin to move through the warehouse district, peeking through the windows as they try to find Alfred. Meanwhile, Killer Croc is still interrogating this Two-Face, but leaves for a minute to go and check on the guns and drugs that he has coming into the warehouse. Alfred drops his Two-Face routine after he's left alone, trying to desperately get in touch with Bruce and get some assistance. "I seem to be in a bit of a spot, but I'm not sure how long I can remain in character," he whispers, but to no reply. Over at Leslie's clinic, Barbara is trying to shake Bruce awake, but Leslie stops her, reminding her of all the drugs that she has now pumped into Bruce. She finally nods, reaching for Bruce's comms, telling Leslie to call her if he wakes up. Back over in the warehouse district, Nightwing holds Robin's feet, allowing the kid to dangle down while he looks in some windows. "I think I found our man. He's tied to the chair, upper deck office. 2 mooks watching from the door," Robin whispers. So the two heroes manage to sneak inside, moving along the shadows of the rafters until they drop into the room. Nightwing's eyes widen as he looks at Two-Face in the chair, and he rushes forward, grabbing the villain by the suit. "Tell me where the Brit is, or I'll beat you harder than you did me, Dent!" he hisses in anger. And Alfred looks up at him. "I thought I raised you to display better manners, Master Richard." Nightwing is shocked, but Robin grabs him by the arm, warning him of approaching goons. The 2 goons come barreling through the door, having discussed the situation in the hallway. They offered a free Two-Face in exchange for a place on his crew. "Double agents, eh? I like it. I'd be grateful. Were I not already liberated," Alfred says in his Two-Face voice. He holds up his free hands, while Nightwing and Robin slip out of the shadows, leaping at the goons, quickly taking them out. The 2 heroes work to completely free Two-Face, but are interrupted as Killer Croc enters the room, still carrying one of the rocket launchers that he received from his shipment. "And what the hell is this?" he snaps, aiming the rocket launcher, ignoring the men's warning about firing it indoors. Alfred rushes forward, slamming into Croc, forcing him to fire the weapon into the ceiling. While outside, Batgirl is still searching for the right warehouse, but looks up sharply as an explosion rips apart a building nearby. So much for detective work, she sighs. Meanwhile, Nightwing and Robin are moving quickly, leaping forward, double-kicking Croc out of the nearby window. They then turn to Alfred, who has subdued several of the goons and acquired a weapon. "These miscreants are non-combatants from here," he tells the 2, motioning for them to continue on and find Croc. The 2 nod, leaping out the window, landing on the warehouse below. "Man, it's always warehouses, huh?" Robin asks, and Nightwing shrugs as they move through the boxes. "Yeah, sometimes it's derelict ships, sewers, rooftops." They keep moving along the boxes, but begin to fall as Croc grabs a hold of the stack and shifts it away from him. "You should have run when you had the chance. No running now." Robin lands in a roll, but Croc is already on him. Nightwing, having recovered quicker, he pulls out a batarang. "Down, Robin!" he shouts, throwing the weapon. The blades stick into Croc's arm, bringing a roar of anger and pain out of the monster. "He's gonna kill us, isn't he?" Robin asks as he rolls to Nightwing. "Only if we let him," Nightwing says with a nod. Croc picks up another massive crate, preparing to squash the heroes, but the roar of a motorcycle fills the air, with Batgirl crashing through the window, leaping off of the bike, allowing it to slam into Croc. The hero stumbles, the massive crate falling on him and knocking him out. A short time later, the heroes have regrouped, with Croc and his goons tied up and waiting for the Gotham PD. "My bike can only hold one," Batgirl says to Nightwing, but there's a honk as Jason pulls up in a stolen car. "Stolen vehicle, young sir," Alfred says with a disapproval, but Jason just smiles. "Stole it from the Steelers, Alf. 2 negatives make a positive, right?" he says, and Alfred gets into the car, while Nightwing slips onto the back of Batgirl's motorcycle. She puts a hand to her ear, letting them know that Bruce is awake and wants everyone to meet back at the cave for a debriefing. Sure, I just need to make one stop first, Nightwing tells her grimly, and she nods. The two of them make a quick stop where Nightwing records a message for Bruce. He then sends Batgirl on her way, asking her to deliver it to him, because he refuses to go back to the Batcave. She arrives handing the recording to Bruce, which tells Bruce everything that Dick has been feeling and thinking since he was fired, and that he has now taken up a new mantle as Nightwing. It's the next day that Dick is packing his things at the hotel, knowing that he needs to find a more permanent place to stay. But there's a knock at his door and he opens it to find a young man holding a package. He said to give this to you. I gotta go. You know he hates it when we're late. Jason tells him, and the kid turns to leave, but Dick stops him. What's your name? Jason Todd. Remember it. I plan on breaking all of your old records. Jason says with a smile before walking away. Dick turns back to his room, putting the case on the bed and reading the note from Alfred about how he's proud of him, and he knows that he'll need a new suit. Dick smiles at the new uniform, knowing that it really is the clothes that make the man. And there you have it, Nightwing Year 1, where it all started for Nightwing. Now, don't forget to subscribe, as all week we're going to be bringing you various books that involve the Bat family and Black Adam-centric stuff and Black Panther-centric stuff. We're going to be tying it all into everything coming out. And if you go over to our gaming channel for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be giving away copies of Gotham Knights. And if you want to learn how to win those copies, click the link down below to go to one of those videos. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to join us over at Patreon to get early access to a lot of your projects and direct contact with us if you want to send messages. Thank you, and I'll see you next time right here.